I am Clara 24, female, and he said I wasn't worthy of him. I became someone he'll never feel worthy of. Those words, delivered with a casual cruelty that still stings, were meant to break me. Instead, they became the forge that tempered my resolve, turning a heartbroken culinary student into a chef whose name now graces the city's most exclusive dining rooms. What he intended as an insult became the very blueprint for my destiny. My life before Julian was simple, filled with the comforting chaos of my family's bustling kitchen and the quiet ambition of my culinary dreams. I wasn't from money. My parents ran a small, beloved bakery in a cozy neighborhood, and I inherited their love for creating magic with food. From a young age, I knew my path was in the culinary arts. I spent my teenage years experimenting with recipes, devouring cookbooks, and dreaming of the day I'd open my own restaurant. I was attending culinary school, working part-time at a local bistro, and pouring every ounce of my energy into my passion. Then came Julian. He was everything I wasn't: polished, effortlessly charming, and from a family whose name was synonymous with old money and societal influence. We met at a charity gala where I was helping serve appetizers. He was striking, with a confident smile and an air of belonging that I found both intimidating and alluring. I, a culinary student with flour perpetually under her fingernails, felt an undeniable pull towards his world. He pursued me, or at least, that's what I thought at the time. Dinners at exclusive restaurants, invitations to swanky parties. He opened a door to a life I'd only seen in magazines. I fell deeply in love, captivated by his charm and the promise of a future I couldn't quite grasp. But even then, the cracks began to show. My culinary aspirations, which were my entire world, became a subtle point of contention. When I excitedly told him about a complex pastry technique I'd mastered, he'd nod dismissively. "Oh, that's nice, Clara, but surely you don't intend to spend your life in a hot kitchen, smelling of garlic?" He'd often refer to my chosen path as a hobby rather than a serious profession, especially when his own family was around. His mother, a woman of impeccable manners but glacial warmth, once asked me, "So, Clara, when do you think you'll settle down and find a more suitable line of work?" "Julian needs someone who can navigate society, not just a kitchen." I laughed it off, pretending it didn't sting. I told myself it was just a cultural difference, a misunderstanding. I was so blinded by love, so desperate to fit into his world, that I ignored the growing unease, the feeling that I was constantly falling short of an unspoken expectation. Julian's dismissiveness towards my culinary dreams grew more pronounced. With each passing month, what started as subtle jabs became increasingly direct criticisms, often delivered with a patronizing tone that chipped away at my confidence. He saw my passion as a quaint eccentricity, not a serious career. My hands, calloused from chopping and kneading, were not the delicate hands he imagined his future partner possessing. My chef's coat, though pristine, was a symbol of a world he deemed beneath him. I remember once excitedly telling him about an opportunity to stage an unpaid internship at a renowned fine dining restaurant, a stepping stone to my dream of working with a Michelin-starred chef. His reaction was a dismissive wave of the hand. "Clara, why bother with all that grunt work? It's not very glamorous, is it? My mother could probably get you an internship at a gallery if you wanted something more presentable." He truly believed that a job in the arts, even one I had no interest in, would be more suitable than a demanding kitchen role. His family, particularly his mother, reinforced this narrative. During a formal dinner at their sprawling estate, his mother delicately probed my career plans. When I spoke of my aspirations to open my own restaurant, she offered a tight smile. "A charming little bistro. Perhaps Julian dear needs a partner who can host elegant dinners, manage staff, perhaps curate art for our foundation, not someone tied to a stove all day." Julian said nothing, merely giving me a look that silently endorsed her words. I felt a knot of shame tighten in my stomach. It wasn't just his belittling anymore. It was the entire world he inhabited, constantly reminding me that I didn't quite fit. The seeds of doubt began to sprout in my heart. Was my dream too small? Was I truly meant for a life in a hot kitchen, sacrificing social graces for the pursuit of flavor? I started to question myself, to dim my own light to try and fit into the mold Julian and his family seemed to have cast for me. I dressed differently, tried to steer conversations away from food, even contemplated alternative career paths just to please him. I loved him, or at least the idea of him and the life he represented. But the constant feeling of being less than, of being told my passion was not enough, was slowly eroding the very core of who I was. The beautiful future I envisioned with him began to feel less like a shared dream and more like a cage, one where my culinary aspirations would be forever stifled. The belittling escalated from subtle digs and dismissive comments to outright condescension, culminating in the brutal words that would forever etch themselves into my memory. It was the night of my culinary school's annual showcase, a culmination of months of hard work. I had poured my soul into a complex, innovative dessert, a deconstructed lavender and honey cheesecake with crystallized violets aiming to impress the industry professionals and potential mentors in attendance. Julian had reluctantly agreed to come, complaining about the smell of grease in the air and the unrefined crowd. My dessert was a hit. Chef Isabella Rossi, a legendary figure in the culinary world, known for her Michelin-starred restaurant and notoriously high standards, tasted my creation and offered a rare, approving nod. "Young woman," she said, her voice gravelly but kind, "this shows true promise. Come speak with me after the tasting." My heart soared. This was it, the validation I craved, the first step towards my dream. Overjoyed, I rushed to find Julian, eager to share the news. I found him nursing a drink by the exit, chatting animatedly with some of his well-dressed friends. "Julian, you won't believe it. Chef Rossi, the Chef Rossi, loved my cheesecake. She wants to talk to me." I practically bounced with excitement. He turned, a polite, almost bored smile on his face. He glanced at my slightly flushed cheeks, still wearing my chef's jacket, and then at his impeccably dressed friends. A look of disdain flickered in his eyes. "Clara, darling, must you always be so enthusiastic? And really, a cheesecake. It's hardly going to make you a millionaire, is it? You're still just a cook, darling. A glorified baker." My smile faltered. The words were a slap across the face, delivered with cold calculation in front of his friends. One of them snickered. But then, Julian leaned closer, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper, filled with contempt. "Honestly, Clara," he sneered, his eyes raking over me, "sometimes I just wonder what I ever saw in you. You're so provincial, so focused on this little kitchen fantasy. You'll never fit into my world. You're not worthy of me, Clara, not truly. My family deserves someone with real ambition, real class, not someone who smells of sugar and burnt butter." The words hit me like physical blows. Not worthy of me. The air left my lungs. The bustling sounds of the showcase faded into a distant hum. My vision blurred, not just from the tears stinging my eyes, but from the sudden, stark clarity that washed over me. This wasn't just a casual insult. This was a deliberate, brutal, emotional execution. He had taken my deepest passion, my core identity, and weaponized it to shatter my soul. In that moment, surrounded by the scent of my dreams, he had called me utterly worthless. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I simply turned, walked away from him and his sneering friends, and found a quiet corner to compose myself. The exhilaration from Chef Rosie's compliment was utterly extinguished, replaced by a searing pain. But as the tears finally came, so too did a tiny, fierce spark. He thought I wasn't worthy. He thought my dreams were small. Fine. I would build an empire out of those small dreams. An empire so grand that he would one day look up at it and realize, with devastating clarity, that he was the one who would never be worthy. The days and weeks following Julian's cruel words were a desolate landscape of heartbreak. I retreated from culinary school, from my part-time job, from everyone. His words, "You're not worthy of me," played on a relentless loop in my mind, echoing his family's dismissive remarks about my small aspirations. I felt a profound sense of shame and failure, as if his judgment was an undeniable truth. The passion for cooking, which had been the driving force of my life, felt extinguished. My kitchen, once a sanctuary of creativity, became a painful reminder of shattered dreams. My parents, with their quiet wisdom, gave me space but kept a watchful eye. They knew me too well to let me wallow forever. One evening, my father brought me a perfectly ripe tomato from their garden, still warm from the sun. "Clara," he said, gently, "you can make something beautiful out of anything. Even this. It's just a tomato. But in your hands, it's magic." His simple words, devoid of judgment or pity, resonated deep within me. The turning point truly came a few days later when my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. "Is this Clara?" a gruff, familiar voice asked. "This is Chef Isabella Rossi. You vanished after the showcase. I was looking forward to speaking with you. Your cheesecake, it had heart and potential. Are you going to waste that potential hiding away?" Her words, sharp and direct, pierced through the fog of my despair. Chef Rossi, the culinary legend, remembered me. She saw heart and potential. It was a stark contrast to Julian's contempt. I stammered, explained my heartbreak, my doubt. She listened, then cut me off. "Sentimentality won't cook. Passion does, talent does. If you want to be great, you stop feeling sorry for yourself and you get back in the kitchen." My kitchen? I have a demanding but rewarding stage position opening. Are you in, or are you going to let some arrogant boy dictate your future? Her challenge ignited a fierce spark within me, a phoenix rising from the ashes of my crushed spirit. Julian's words had intended to shrink me, but Chef Rosie's challenge forced me to expand. I took the stage position, knowing it would be grueling, unpaid, and utterly demanding. But it was a chance to prove not just Julian wrong, but to prove to myself that I was worthy. The kitchen under Chef Rossi was a crucible. She was a strict, unrelenting mentor, but she was fair. She pushed me to my limits, tested my skills, and constantly reminded me that excellence was earned, not given. Every burn, every late night, every moment of exhaustion was a small act of defiance against Julian's dismissal. I devoured knowledge, honed my techniques, and learned the intricate business of running a high-end restaurant. My ambition, once a quiet flicker, became a roaring blaze. I wasn't just cooking anymore. I was building, brick by painful brick, the foundations of a new Clara, someone who would define her own worth, far beyond the petty judgments of someone who never truly saw her. My time under Chef Isabella Rossi was transformative. She taught me not just how to cook, but how to lead, how to innovate, and how to command a kitchen with grace and authority. Her own journey, from humble beginnings to Michelin-starred glory, became my roadmap. I absorbed everything, from the precise science of molecular gastronomy to the subtle art of sourcing the freshest local ingredients. The kitchen became my sanctuary, the place where I rediscovered my voice and rebuilt my confidence, one perfectly plated dish at a time. After years of relentless dedication, proving my mettle in every station from commis to sous chef, Chef Rossi offered me a partnership in her newest venture, a modern French restaurant she envisioned in the heart of the city. I poured my savings, my energy, and every creative fiber of my being into it. We named it éclat, meaning brilliance or sparkle in French. A subtle nod to the light I refused to let. Julian extinguished. The launch of éclat was a culmination of everything I had learned and dreamed. We focused on innovative, seasonal menus, combining classic techniques with unexpected flavors. I meticulously designed every detail, from the ambiance to the plating, ensuring every guest experience was unforgettable. Chef Rossi mentored me through the initial chaos, allowing me to take the reins. Trusting my instincts, éclat was an immediate sensation. Food critics raved about its inventive cuisine and elegant atmosphere. Reservations became notoriously difficult to secure. We earned a reputation for excellence, attracting a discerning clientele who appreciated true culinary artistry. Within 2 years, éclat earned its first coveted Michelin star, a testament to the tireless work of our team and the unwavering pursuit of perfection. My name, Clara, once dismissed, was now whispered with reverence in culinary circles. I was invited to prestigious food festivals, featured in prominent culinary magazines, and asked to speak at culinary schools. I was no longer just a cook. I was a chef, a restaurateur, a rising star in the global culinary scene. My success wasn't about bitterness. It was about the profound satisfaction of building something extraordinary from scratch, based purely on my talent and unwavering passion. Julian, meanwhile, had faded into the background of my life. I heard snippets through mutual acquaintances. He was still in some vague business role, seemingly stagnant, his grand ambitions never quite materializing. He was still living in the shadow of his family's name, while I was creating my own legacy, dish by exquisite dish. The distance between us, once measured by social standing and perceived worth, was now measured by Michelin stars and the quiet hum of a wildly successful dream. As éclat soared, so did my profile. My face was on magazine covers, my recipes shared in glossy cookbooks, and my name was synonymous with culinary innovation. I was busy, fulfilled, and surrounded by a team that genuinely respected my vision. I rarely thought of Julian, save for the occasional, fleeting memory that served as a quiet reminder of how far I had come. But the world, as it often does, has a way of bringing past chapters back into focus. Whispers began to circulate through our shared social circles, carried by the very acquaintances who once admired Julian's perceived success. His family's wealth, it turned out, wasn't as solid as it seemed. Years of questionable investments and a reliance on old money rather than new innovation had taken their toll. Their lofty future was looking rather shaky. I heard that Julian's own career hadn't taken off as he had so confidently predicted. His business roles seemed to involve more networking than actual work, and his various ventures never quite materialized. He was still living off his family's name, but that name was rapidly losing its luster. The grand ambitions he once espoused had seemingly been replaced by a quiet desperation, a struggle to maintain the illusion of success. One afternoon, a mutual acquaintance, Sarah, ran into me at a food market. After complimenting éclat, she lowered her voice. "Clara, you won't believe it. Julian's family, they're really struggling. I heard he's even looking for new opportunities himself. Things are pretty dire." A pang, not of malice, but of a strange, detached curiosity, went through me. The man who had once deemed me unworthy, whose lofty future was so far above mine, was now facing the harsh realities of a world that didn't care for inherited status. The storm that had gathered around Julian's world was a silent one, a slow unraveling of the facade he had so carefully constructed. I remembered his sneering face, his words, "You're not worthy of me." And now, the universe seemed to be delivering its own verdict. I wasn't actively seeking his downfall. I was too busy building my own empire of flavor and excellence. But the irony was undeniable, and the stage was being set for a reunion that would serve as the ultimate, unspoken vindication. The man who had dismissed my dreams was about to realize the true cost of his arrogance. The call came from my reservations manager, a usually unflappable woman named Simone, her voice betraying a hint of unusual excitement. "Chef Clara, there's a gentleman on the line insisting on a table tonight. He says it's urgent and that he knows you personally." Julian Sterling. My blood ran cold for a split second. Julian? After all these years, my restaurant, acclaimed, was booked solid for months, especially on a Friday night. We were a mid-establishment, not a walk-in diner. I felt a quiet, almost imperceptible tremor of vindication. He wanted a table. He wanted a taste of the empire I had built. "Tell him we're fully booked, Simone," I replied, my voice calm, almost detached. "And tell him that while I appreciate his past acquaintance, our reservation policy is strict." I knew it was a small act, but it was significant. The man who had once excluded me from his lofty world was now being politely, but firmly, denied entry into mine. A few weeks later, destiny, or perhaps just the universe's sense of poetic justice, intervened. I was invited to be a keynote speaker at a prestigious culinary leadership summit, an event where top chefs and restaurateurs gathered. My session, focusing on sustainable sourcing and innovative business models, was packed. As I walked onto the stage, the spotlight found me, and I felt a surge of pride, a quiet triumph. Halfway through my speech, my eyes swept across the audience, and there he was, Julian. He was sitting in the third row, looking markedly older, his expensive suit slightly rumpled, a desperate flicker in his eyes. He had lost some of his former swagger, replaced by a strained tension. He was there, not as a peer, but as someone trying to make connections, to perhaps salvage a fading career. He was in my world now, a world he had once scoffed at, and he looked utterly out of place. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. As I stepped down from the stage, Julian immediately made his way towards me, pushing through the crowd. He approached cautiously, a hesitant smile on his face. "Clara," he began, his voice a little shaky. It's Julian. I knew that was you. You were amazing up there. And Ekla, I hear it's incredible. I've been trying to get a reservation." I met his gaze, my expression serene, devoid of the hurt or anger that once consumed me. I had moved far beyond that. "Hello, Julian," I said, my voice cool and professional. "Yes, Eklet is doing very well. We're quite proud of it," he stammered, his eyes darting around the room, taking in my confident demeanor. The respect in the eyes of those who surrounded me. "Look, Clara, I just wanted to say I was a fool, a complete fool. What I said all those years ago about you not being worthy, I was wrong, completely wrong. You've achieved everything. I'm so sorry. I actually wanted to ask if there might be any opportunities at Eklat, or perhaps for some investment advice for a new venture I'm trying to get off the ground." My gaze remained steady. I saw the desperation in his eyes, the erosion of the arrogance that once defined him. "Julian," I said, my voice calm, quiet, and firm. "My past is exactly that, the past. I've built Eklet on passion, hard work, and a commitment to genuine worth, not perceived status. And on that note, I wish you luck with your ventures." I offered a small, polite nod and turned to greet the next person in line, leaving him standing. There amidst the buzzing crowd, a silent acknowledgement of the vast chasm between us. He had said I wasn't worthy of him. But now, standing in the empire I had painstakingly built, a place he could only dream of entering, he finally understood that he was the one who would never feel worthy of me. And in that moment, the dish of my triumph was perfectly served. After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories. We are all human. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon.